Hi, it is a pleasure to be here with you today, Howard. You were the cybersecurity advisor under President Bush and then recalled under President Obama. It's been a good decade since you've been paying attention, and I've been paying attention to this problem. What has changed in your view over the past decade?
Well, I think for the most part is the intensity of a lot of the things that have been going on. We've been talking since back in the early 90s about better protecting, better passwords, better this, better that. And as we've gone down this path, as we've tried to educate people, it's sort of been, well, only the security people need to worry about this. There wasn't this level of intention that everybody should be a part of it. Everybody should be part of an ecosystem that actually fosters a stronger and safer internet.
The problem is right in the C-level executives' face at the moment.
Well, that's the interesting piece of it. For the longest time, it's been an IT problem. We talk about the CIO and the CISOs. They really know how to do this. But the problem is when it comes into the C-suite, the board of directors, there's been this sort of, well, it's an IT problem. If the CIO can't fix it, we'll get a new CIO. And that's not what we need. We need the coverage from the C-suite.
Is there some level of the dots connecting in the senior executive's mind with existing regulations, the state's data loss disclosure, and HIPAA, and also, with lawsuits now that are coming? If Target, there's been like dozens and dozens of lawsuits in the wake of Target.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think is taken out of the technology realm and said, this is a strategic decision that we need to make at the corporate level. Because when you start looking at liability, you start looking at government sanctions, you start looking at all kinds of things that could affect your business that traditionally has been affecting it. And the financial services sector years ago, they were saying, okay, we can lose this amount of money through credit card fraud, identity theft, and we can work within that because that's a way of a business loss that we can account now. Now it's much more than that. It's reputation, it's government regulation, it's customer confidence. And so that's where there's a lot of attention going into.
You could just look around here. We're in the North Hall of Moscone Center. You could go over to the South Hall. It's just as big. It's not like we don't have smart technology, clever technology available. There's almost an overwhelming amount of it if you just look around. Can you speak about the technology factor, how it could come into play to help?
Yeah, clearly. As I've gone to this since the very first RSA meeting and things like InfoSec Europe and places like that, every year I see products develop to react to what happened this past year or last week or last month. So you wind up in a situation almost chasing the problem instead of developing for those problems before they occur. For example, we have tremendous capabilities in intrusion detection, intrusion prevention, malware protection, all those sort of things, but we've seen they have not been effective. They've been good, but they've not been fully effective.
Perimeter.
That's correct. They're all perimeter based. So what happens when somebody gets in and it looks like it's an insider? It looks like they should be there. Then they start doing things that you or I as a normal employee would not do. These are the things that we need to develop. But just as important, if not more important, is we need to create an ecosystem that not only does strong authentication, does strong encryption, does secure coding and secure coding, fuzzing, these sort of things that basically put you in a position where you have everything in your favor as opposed to the bad guys.
A lot of the new forms of intel have to do, as you were talking earlier, about seeing patterns, using the data that comes in from all the sensors, and then applying artificial intelligence, being able actually to predict how the bad guys go, because they follow a pattern. They follow the easiest course, like water.
Yeah, it's interesting because, not everybody agrees with me, but we keep using the term advanced persistent threat, APT. The persistent, I totally agree with. The threat, I totally agree with. The advanced, not so much. Because when you start looking at these things, it's phishing email, spear phishing email, getting into the system, then elevating privilege through exploitation of known vulnerabilities that haven't been patched. So consequently, we've been seeing this for more than 20 years now. And so I don't consider that advanced. Some of the techniques, once they get in the system, the 0 days and things could be construed as advanced. So consequently, we really need to stop them from getting from the front door.
Looking forward, is there a reason to be optimistic that maybe now, 14, 15 years after you first went into the White House, maybe we might see a convergence of variables which would include the attention of the sea levels, putting us on maybe a little better curve to close the gap on the bad guys, do you believe?
Yeah, and I think we will. And a lot of us, and we had some dinners last night with some people that have been in the business for a long time, and every one of them to the person, these are really high-level security people saying, I'm more optimistic now. Because what's happened is, and it's a bad thing, but it turned out to be a good thing, with all the activity the bad guys have had breaking the systems, doing credit card stuff, writing malware, has really got everybody energized, saying enough is enough. That there's one other piece of it that does make a difference, and that's the consumer. The consumer has got to want security, not ease of use. But I tell them every time they tell me, well, it's too difficult to do this, my response is, if it was easier, would you do it? And they say, absolutely. So that's what we have to build. Build the next generation where security is seamless to the end user, the non-technology person, but also gives you enough security, digital authentication, encryption, these sort of things that are transparent to the end user that do us a better job.